How's your hand doing?
Trying to keep it bent over.
Where I live.
Oh.
Keep the flexibility.
Oh, because if you don't, you have pins in it, right?
No, they took them out.
They took them out, but it's still.
Well, they have to decide if they're going to fix the tendons.
Oh.
That's about all I can do myself. Because of the scarring on the tendons. There's an operation called I think, where they scrape the scarring off.
Oh.
So we'll see if they're going to decide Friday if they're going to do it.
Wow.
Jeez. Her.
And that must be. And then how long will it take?
Yeah. Wow. And so were you burned out of it, or?
Not fun.
That's the point where she didn't ever have heat, and then passed away shortly after that.
Well, you went to work for the Alzheimer's
After my folks passed.
after she died. So I think you went to
Almost been better to have a clean cut.
Yeah, it was smashed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
you cut a shirt or a sweater,
Yeah.
you can sew it back, but if you smash it with your foot, and all the fibers go all over the place.
Well, I
It's hard.
know.
I didn't want to go back to
Oh,
what
yeah.
you were saying with the way it was changed.
Yeah.
Not a good thing.
Okay.
So,
Hi, Mamada Edala. Namaste too. So, can you hear me well? Could you confirm that you can hear me well? And of course, you're welcome. We will start the satsang in about 10 minutes.
No, you do it.
but it's true.
For the
Audrey, can you hear me?
Because you don't know that for sure.
Okay,
right
great.
now anyway.
Where are you located, Mamada?
That you felt like you were doing the right thing for as long as you could. Yeah.
There's not a lot of people, they think they know what Alzheimer's is, but I've studied it since I was in high school.
Really?
My grandmother, my mom's mom had it,
Okay.
so that's when.
Great.
And
Thank you, Audrey. Good to know that there is good audio.
What are your thoughts about,
nutrition,
yeah?
a lot of things that people that are changing now, pots that they cook with.
Yeah, I worry about
Doing
that.
it yourself, I know you said you were sometimes working for the.
Yeah, I go in, 2 days a
Like
week,
worrying
help them out.
that like,
Yeah.
Cut
how
paper,
you change the behavior or
Sorry,
live your life,
paper.
make, make a conscious choice.
Other than that, not much.
The advantage of being in the hospital and knowing
Alright.
what the right thing is to do, so if I start to feel bad, I change my ways.
So there.
Fun, as long as it's not bad. That's right. So true.
Yeah.
I'm gonna sit down.
I do go into one of the print shops and help them out with it. For records to sell for swap meets and stuff.
Oh, you're from Hyderabad, India. Okay. Studying in Berkeley?
Let the dog sit on me. Yeah. He likes having me around.
Sure he does. You just have one right now?
Yeah, one dog and one cat.
Steven, can you hear me?
We don't have any animals.
No?
There's 11 kittens sitting on this table out here if you want to have a look before you go.
You,
They're not.
this will be broadcasted via a webinar. Stephen, you need to go to the email that I sent, and there is a link there. You click in the link, and you will get immediately audio and
I think right now,
and
now
video.
they're napping.
Oh, okay.
Which is a
Can you
good
hear me?
thing.
You know what we have now? We have Oreos.
Oh,
Yeah.
They are beautiful. They're like orangey yellow.
yeah.
The black wings.
Did you hear me, Stephen?
I saw one on the hummingbird feeder. And I went online and researched it. And I
Did you hear me,
Stephen?
Wow, I didn't know that.
They can't, their beaks aren't long enough. So they can't, they need a special feeder. So
That goes up
I
too,
ordered
Gina.
a
On
special
on your left side, there's a.
So about 6 to 8 pounds every day.
Yeah, you can push it up.
Wow. Squirrel picking things up.
Yeah, tons of squirrels all day.
Other way, yeah, that way.
Hummingbird at the feeder right
And
here.
a huge hawk,
Uh-oh.
a Cooper hawk.
What a life.
Yeah.
Living
There
a
you
life,
go.
baby. Get spiritual in a reclining
Oh,
position.
you are for her graduation. I see. Good.
Absolutely. Is there any other way?
Hey, hi.
Okay.
We just got back from Shasta.
Well, so did I.
We were up there for a week.
You were?
Yeah, I went there for, let's see, was it last week?
And we were there, I think,
Or
the week
2 weeks
before.
ago. That's when I was there.
Oh my
I didn't
God.
see you.
Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't run into you.
Well, what were you up there for?
Just
The sightseeing.
Oh, okay, I was up
So
there for a
those
workshop.
online,
Yeah.
we will
so
start
specifically
in
for
about
China.
4 minutes.
Oh.
But we worked 4 days, the trip, all of you.
Yeah.
We just went to the springs, and went to all the different falls and
That's
lakes and
cute.
rivers.
I'm so, we were there at the same time.
That's wild.
That's wild. I saw a couple of friends that I hadn't seen in a long time. I knew they had moved up there. I didn't know if I'd see them.
Where'd you stay?
We stayed in a B&B
Oh,
right on the
okay.
main street.
We
This
were
old
at that,
Victorian house.
Oh, nice. We were just at a little, Evergreen Hotel. You know it?
I think it's
I
on
think
the
we
main
might have
street.
seen it.
It's on one of the main drags.
Was it nice or no?
It was, for what it was fine. It was adequate,
Yeah.
Did you know Ganga and Tara?
Do you know Arlen Cage and Ron Cage? You get to know them if you go back.
Well, Ganga and Tara, they were around. They gave workshops, or not workshops, but talks. They were at Shumi. They did a talk at Shumi.
Oh, I was there for that talk.
India.
For the story that they had.
Yeah.
That was great.
Anyway, we ran into them.
Hi, Salim.
Spent some time with them.
Nice to see you there.
They're living up there now.
Oh, nice.
Now we're starting in about 3 minutes.
Do you have any plans to go back?
I think we might go back in September.
You know that, okay, on the main drag there, that's that soul connections.
Yeah.
Crazy crystals.
Yeah.
Well, Ireland's workshop is right upstairs. That's where
Oh.
we went first.
Oh,
Yeah, he's an acupuncturist in that town, acupuncture naturopath, and he also is a practitioner of the thing that I do called Kahala.
I had a friend, Gian, who did that.
Kahala?
It was first time I ever heard about it.
I did introductory workshop in the town next door. No?
I'm not into healing anymore.
Yeah.
Energy healing anymore.
Yeah.
Jim was really associated with the Native American Indians,
Uh-huh.
and I think that's where he made it.
Oh. Yeah, because it's close back there.
Yeah.
And there was an accident high school. Atlantis first, and then went to Egypt and Mesoamerica. It's really nice. I like it.
I'm really into it by just meditating and being consciousness.
Yeah.
Into the Course of Miracles. That's
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, I mean, we're drawn to what we're drawn to. I use the title with everything. It amplifies. It's like whooper and clear on everything.
Sorry?
Are we starting?
Oh, in 40 seconds. 50 seconds.
You look very, very radiant tonight.
Thank you. I have had some life changing. Really cool stuff. Lighten up a lot. Thank you. Not the least of which is being happy to see people again after a long time.
It's been a long time. Jim was in Chile.
It's all his fault for going away. The glue that kept us together disappeared.
Comes back. Okay, let's begin. Let's have a short meditation, and then we go into the subject. I'm going to make a little presentation, and then we go into questions and answers, right? So let's begin by closing our eyes, and let us take 3 deep breaths, and during the exhalation allow your whole body to relax from head to toe. So let us inhale and exhale, relaxing. Allow your whole body to relax. Inhale again and exhale, relaxing the whole body. And once more, inhale deeply. And exhale, relaxing the whole body from head to toe. Now take a moment to gently smile, a half smile, which tends to calm down the brain and has positive effects in your mood. And helps to do not take things seriously. The half smile of the Buddha is very helpful in meditation. And according to studies in consciousness, calibrates between joy and bliss, 560, and it's quite liberating to live there. So to succeed in meditation, we better don't take it too seriously. And now from here, just allow your focus, the focus of your attention to open up. like follow the pointer, rest as open awareness. Simply rest as open awareness. And keep your half smile, which warms the heart and calms the mind. And rest deeper and deeper as consciousness, the consciousness that you are already, which is your true self. Open awareness or expanded consciousness is the same. Now gently open your eyes and notice that you can rest as open awareness, and you can also continue practicing the half smile with your eyes open, which is a meditative state. In fact, there is research indicating that when you are in open awareness, the brain produces lots of alpha waves, which are healing, calming, and keep you away from negative emotions. Although today we will talk about negative emotions. The whole session will be about negative emotions. Hopefully. And why is that? Because negative emotions is what keeps us from keep enjoying our true self. So if we solve our issues, or we could say the issues that pertain the mind-body organism, because actually you're not the mind-body organism, neither your emotions, you are the observation of that. You are the consciousness that is observing the negative emotion arise. So you're not the negative emotion. The negative emotion is something in the mind-body organism, which is not you either, because the mind-body organism can be observed through the senses. You can look at it, you can listen to it, you can smell it. So it's through the senses that you have awareness, you as awareness know that the body is there. So the body is an object for awareness. That observation is not an object because it's more like a verb. It's an observing that is going on all the time. It's just observing different mental objects. Could be sensations, could be emotions, could be desires, beliefs, thoughts. That's basically it. 5 mental objects. That's the dance of the mind. It's 5 mental objects dancing. And there is perceiving of these 5 mental objects. Constant perceiving. The mental objects are dancing and are coming and going, coming and going. And they are dualistic in nature. Some are positive, some are negative. But the observation that is looking at them is perceiving of the mental objects is constant. It's the only constant in your life. It never stops. And that's consciousness. Actually, it should be called consciousnessing. It's more a verb than a subject. So in the universe, there is consciousnessing. There is perceiving. Through each mind-body organism, there is perceiving. And it's impersonal. So when the mind-body organism goes into negative emotions, what happens is that you, as consciousness, you become contracted. You can't sustain the open awareness. And then the negative emotion will contract you into the feeling and also possibly the negative thoughts that are going on in the head. And especially if the negative emotion is strong. So what do we do with these emotions? they are our friends. They are actually our friends because they are telling you, as my friend Jim Driver likes to say, where you're not free. Actually, it's where your mind-body organism is not free, where the programs, the old cultural and family programs are holding on and are keeping you bound, keeping the mind-body organism bound. Also, some of these programs come from trauma, right? That's three sources: society, family, and trauma. So how can we free the mind-body organism? How you as consciousness can free the mind-body organism? That's the question. Hi, Roy. Welcome. So that's the question, how we can free the mind-body organism. Not you, you are free already. You as consciousness, you are free. But the mind-body organism has issues. Yes.
I know how we can free it.
Sorry?
I know how we can free it.
Yes, please.
We can kill it.
Diane is saying that she knows how to free the mind-body organism, and it's by killing it. Well, it sounds a little violent to me. Well, so you see, this is compounded by another factor, which is that inside the mind-body organism, there is also subtle bodies, astral body and causal body or mental body. And these things are highly programmed. So actually, it's not just a mind-body organism, it's a mind-body-soul complex. Soul means the astral body, right? So it's a pretty complicated instrument. And if we kill the physical body, yes, we get rid of a lot of problems. But then you have to deal with the consequences of that action in the other side. Not to mention that in the other side, you will not be free from the problems that are affecting the astral body and the causal body. So we can use this human experience here in the physical to free the whole system. And how we do that? We can use very, very simple techniques that are called releasing techniques. There are many different releasing techniques that you can find online. But I'm going to focus today on one releasing technique that is called the surrendering technique. And I have talked about this technique before, presenting the dualistic form of the technique. And this satsang is about the non-dual form of the same technique. But before we go there, for those who were not here in that satsang, I will take a moment to remind you how you practice the dualistic form, which is not entirely dualistic. So, the most dualistic form comes from Christianity, and it's a template that reads something like this: I surrender this emotion to God. Or, dear God, I surrender this emotion, and you give the name to the emotion to you. And then you state, please take it away, either completely or forever, right? So that's the technique. At the end, you can say thank you. That helps, increases the calibration, in fact. So when you calibrate this technique in the map of consciousness with this template, where you as a separate I are surrendering a negative emotion to the divine, to God in this case, a separate being from you, it calibrates still in the 600s, which is a lot. There's a lot of power there. So you're welcome to practice the technique in that way. It's going to free you. It's going to free the mind-body organism. However, if you change the word God for the one or for divine, the calibration goes about 100 points up into the 700s. Right. So if you say, I surrender this emotion, and you put it the name of the emotion, let's say anger. I surrender this anger to the divine. Please take it away completely and forever. Thank you. If you do that, it will calibrate in the 700s. Because now you are not seeing God as something separated from you, but you are, when you say the one, you are including the consciousness that is looking through, the awareness that is looking through this mind-body organism, which is also part of the universal consciousness. The universal consciousness is looking through all these mind-body organisms. So our true nature is the divine itself. So the more you get close to the truth, the higher is the calibration. With words, you can only get closer and closer and closer to the truth. The truth is not words. The truth is the divine itself, right? So the words are pointing to the divine, are pointing to your true nature, our true nature, because we share the same consciousness. So the second approach, I surrender this emotion to the divine. Please take it away completely or forever. Thank you. That calibrates in the 700s. Now, the problem with this template is that still you have an I there, and there is not such a thing. It's not this. The I is a fictitious self. It does not exist in the ultimate analysis, and that can be realized. The realization that the I is not real is what we call awakening, right? That the I that you have been thinking that is somewhere here inside is real, the me, is not real. And when you realize that, that's awakening. Then you realize simultaneously that actually you are pure awareness. Right? The perceiving that is happening through your eyes right now, you can be noticed, and that's where you are. It's as simple as that. But it's deceptively simple in the sense that the thought of I and me has been hammered so many times in our lives through repetition here that it has become practically impossible to think that it doesn't exist, that it's just a thought or it's just a word. And that we don't have a separate existence. But we don't. The separate existence is based on imagination. So awakening shows you that, right? Then with the words, we can get as close as possible to the truth. And every time we get closer and closer, the calibration goes up in the template of the surrendering technique. So you can change the template again and remove the word I from there. The word I, when the word I is gone, then the template will be something like this. This emotion is surrendered now. And it's removed completely. Simple as that. As you see, this is the use of the passive language in English. The passive language eliminates the subject and it tells you the truth. Everything in the universe is an unfolding and nobody's doing anything. Or we could say the divine is doing everything. But we have this imagination, this illusion that we are doing, right? So as we get closer and closer to the truth with words, then the calibration goes up and up. So we did several experiments with a student and friend that he is good at using kinesiology, and we calibrated quite a few interesting things about this template. And if you want to use it in the highest numbers, in the 900s, in fact, you can go all the way to 960. It will sound something like this. This negative emotion, you give it the name, which by the way can be also aversion, attachment, or like and dislike, limited belief, addiction. You can put anything there, not only a negative emotion, right? Is surrender to the divine. You need the word divine to raise the calibration there. Is surrender to the divine completely. And then the maximum number we got, the 960, was by adding at the end the following. Yes, meaning that you really, there's a whole yes in your body saying yes to this statement, right? Yes, you can repeat it 3 times, it's not going to change the calibration. You can say yes, yes, yes. And then thank you, thank you, thank you. Even if you say it once, the calibration will go to 960. So I will repeat, and I would suggest that you write this down because it's easy to forget. This emotion is surrendered to the divine completely. Yes, 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 thank you, thank you, thank you. And that calibrates, according to the study we did, 960, which is an enormous amount of power. Because the scale goes from 0 to 1000, so this is at the top of the scale. Now, the calibration does not tell us the whole story, and that's something I want you to consider. There is like a personal element in this that you need to respect. So, and that personal element is what really moves you, what really touches you, what really increases your sincerity, what words really make you feel this intense desire to let go, right? And this sincerity in yes, this better go. So don't go exclusively by the calibration, also consider what works for you. Let me give you an example. In my case, when I practice this particular template that calibrates 960, it works better for me to alter the last words. So I say this negative emotion is surrendered to the divine completely. And sometimes feels better to say forever. And then instead of saying yes, 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 and then saying yes, 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 thank you, thank you, thank you, that is the way it works for me. But in the calibration, we got the highest by inverting these two words. So thank you, thank you, thank you, yes, yes, yes. But it didn't feel good in this mind-body organism, right? So I use what works for this system, right? And I recommend that you respect that. So these are, it's good information what happens with the calibrations when you look at the different templates, but don't take it too seriously, right? It has to work for you. I just sent this to a cousin in Chile in Spanish, and I just received an email saying that, answering that it's working for her. So yes, the template works, and in the non-dual form, I would say it works better if the awakening already happened. If you already woke up, which is, sorry for the wording, right? Because awakening happens, but doesn't happen to anyone. But if you already experienced awakening, so to speak, you better use the non-dual form of the surrendering technique. If you have not awakened yet, or you think you're not awakened, then continue using the dualistic form, which I would suggest use the word divinity or divine, or the word the one instead of God. But even if you use the word God, it's fine. We calibrated this, and it shows positive in the calibration, meaning that for people that have not awakened yet, the dualistic form is better. For people that already woke up, the non-dual form is better. Which is, it makes sense, right? It makes a lot of sense. The dualistic form of the technique works because the fictitious self, the little self, has free will in the dream, in the drama, in the play, right? So because it has free will, when you say, I surrender this, I let it go, basically you're exercising your free will. And nobody is going to take your free will. The fictitious self has the right to hold. And then it can hold for 30, 40 years, make itself miserable, or it can let go, right? We have to choose. Without the surrendering technique or a similar one, this process is incredibly difficult. With the surrendering technique, to let go is easy because the surrendering technique also increases your, as you practice it, increases your sincerity until you hit target, right? Because it's all about sincerity, wanting to let go. So in the beginning, you may not be that sincere to let go of that grudge that you have with somebody else, right? But you begin to practice the technique a few times, and then you feel that, yes, okay, I want to let go. And then the universe can do the job for you. The universe says, yes, you want to hold? Okay, hold on. You want to release? Okay, I help you. Now, with the non-dual form, it works for a different principle. In fact, in the non-dual form, especially if you, before stating the template, if you rest as awareness, as open awareness, or you rest as the one, rest in oneness, in the all that is. If you do that right before practicing the technique or stating the template, you are stating the template from your true nature, and it carries the power of consciousness and is materialized because you, as consciousness, you are intending it. Make sense? See, the whole universe works based on intention. Consciousness intended the universe before creating it. It came into existence as a result of intention. Intention is prior to thought. It's a very powerful force. In fact, with kinesiology, we calibrated that intention calibrates 1,000. So there's so much power in intention that that's all you need is the intention. And if it's coming from you as consciousness, bingo, that's really powerful, right? So strangely, both techniques, the dual form, is the same technique, but in its dual form and its non-dual form, they work for very different principles. But both work. Okay, I hope this has been clear, and I would like to answer questions about this. But before going there, let's practice at least once together the non-dual form to surrender the ego.
No.
Which it will be impossible to surrender it at once, right? It has too many heads. but maybe we will cut one head. And it's a movement in the right direction, right? So let's do that. Let's practice the technique for to surrender the ego, the attachment to the ego. Let's surrender the attachment to the ego, right? So the ego may be hanging in there, but there will be no attachment to it. Let's do it. Please close your eyes. And let us take a deep breath. And rest as open awareness before we do the technique. Now please repeat after me. This attachment to the ego is surrendered to the divine completely. And is removed forever. This attachment to the ego is surrendered to the divine completely. And is removed forever. This attachment to the ego is surrendered to the divine completely. And is removed forever. Yes. 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 Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The attachment to the ego will go naturally as we experience our true nature more and more, meaning as we rest as awareness away from the ego, right? Because what happens is that when you are resting as open awareness, life is beautiful, it's easy, it flows, it's harmonious. You feel love for everyone, you feel sympathy for everyone. So you realize very soon that to be in the ego is the opposite. It's painful, it's uncomfortable, it's self-centered. It creates inner contradictions. It puts you in a selfish state. in that way, you begin to compare, right? How it feels to be in the ego and how it feels to be in the divine, in your divine nature. So eventually you get it, right? And the attachment begins to dissolve. But you can accelerate the process in this case by using the technique. Then what is born out of that process is what we could call devotion. Devotion in non-duality has to do with where you keep your attention. See, devotion in Bhakti Yoga is about keeping your mind in God. Devotion in non-duality is about keeping your attention in the divine. And if the desire to keep the attention in the divine, to stay resting as open awareness is strong, then it will be easier to be there constantly, right? But that's a subject for another day. So, questions. Those online, I welcome you to use the chat room and ask questions. And also, you here, please feel free to ask any question you want about this subject or something else, but somewhat related, right? Yes.
Could you repeat the 5 mental objects?
Okay, sure. So, your name is Cindy Roy. Cindy Roy is asking the following: if I can repeat the 5 mental objects that conform the dance of the mind. And yes, they are very simple. The first one is emotion. The second one is thoughts, passing thoughts, right? The third one is drives, which includes whatever moves us in life, like goals, motivations, expectations, desires, wants, needs, instincts. All that is drives, right? What moves us in life. And then we have beliefs, which are thoughts, but they carry a lot of power. And then finally, sensations. So these 5 mental objects are alternating and oscillating. Like, for example, a thought may trigger an emotion. That emotion will trigger sensations in the body. The sensations will trigger, for example, a trauma, which will lead to a belief that was created at that moment. And this will be like a net or that is dancing with all this. It's a dance of all these 5 mental objects that is happening right in front of awareness, because there is awareness of the dance. If there was no awareness of the dance, if there was no perceiving of the dance, then it would be pointless. Would have no meaning for anyone. It would be like a universe that cannot be seen. Okay.
So to follow up on that question, or that answer, then for the awakened, or in the state of awakening, then you would be able to observe the dance without participating in the dance. Is that right?
Okay. So Cindy Roy is saying, for those online, that in the awakened state, then you will be able to perceive the dance but not get identified with it and don't get entangled with it, right? Yes, that's one way to put it. However, even after awakening, that you have realized that yes, I'm pure consciousness, I'm not so and so, still you will get identified with the movie, with the dance, when you experience negative emotions. That's why it's so important to clear the field with a releasing technique so that this will stop happening and you will be able to be identified with your true nature all the time. Awakening is a milestone, but it's not liberation. Liberation or full enlightenment comes later as a result of a process that happens between awakening and final liberation. That process is called embodiment. It is to embody your true nature into the body, into the physical mind-body organism, so that your thoughts, your actions, and your feelings reflect your true nature and not the quirks and problems of the mind-body organism and its distorted programs that come from, as I said, culture, family, and trauma. Make sense? Okay.
So, thoughts, it's generally believed, is what triggers a negative emotion. A circumstance happens, my partner leaves the dishes in the sink every day. And I have a thought about that, about, a judgment. Well, he doesn't care about me, he doesn't care about the house, this engenders an emotion, and I start becoming angry, this thought that I have about him. If I have the release of the emotion of anger about him, the thought doesn't go away necessarily. My belief system about how a person should act in a house with dishes
Right.
is still there. So
yes.
How does one
It's a very good question.
Yeah.
Sorry, what's your name?
Gina,
Gina, yes. Yeah, I'm bad at names. Okay, Gina is asking an interesting question, and I'm going to answer the questions online afterwards. Look, Gina is saying, if her husband does something at home that feels annoying to her, and she feels negative emotion, she says first there will be a thought, right? A judgment. He shouldn't have done that. How he dares, right? I was taught differently when I was a child, right? That husbands should behave in a different way. Anyway, all that will trigger the emotion. And cognitive psychology, pointed in the same direction that you are mentioning, which is that you can uncover the underlying thought underneath the emotion, and then you talk back to the thought in order to destroy the illusion that the thought is real. And in that way, you remove that thought and you replace it for something more useful, right? So the problem is, so this technique, the surrendering technique, works in a very different way. It works as it works based on sincerity. There is this desire to let go of that. And then what happens is that usually the individual is not conscious of that thought, right? The story that they are having in the mind. But if there is sincerity in surrendering the emotion, you will see results, and many times will be immediate. The emotion will go. And then if the belief stays there, it will be dealt later. The universe will somehow help you because of your sincere ask for releasing, will help you to also release that. To see it, and when you see it, you release it. If you saw it immediately, if you saw that belief, the belief that caused the emotion, you can do the surrendering technique for the thought also. You surrender the thought, right? The belief. But if you didn't, then don't worry. This is like this. Is if you, when you see an iceberg, when you see the iceberg is only 1/10 of it. Underneath there is a lot of stuff, right? Underneath the water, underneath the surface. Well, with negative emotions it's the same. Underneath there is not only negative thoughts or negative beliefs. There could be a lot of stuff there. Distorted drives, addictions, negative beliefs, limiting beliefs. So it can be pretty complex. Now, if you're skillful at doing introspection, you can dive below the surface and begin to look into the iceberg below, right? And you will see quite a panorama there many times. So this, instead of relying on introspection, it relies on something very simple, that you are capable of noticing your emotions. Give it a name and surrender it. And then the rest, what happens underneath, is left to consciousness to deal with it. What I have seen using the technique is that sometimes a day later or two, it becomes evident something else that was underneath that emotion, and then when it becomes evident, I surrender it. But I don't have to stop at the moment, and take paper and pen and begin to do an introspection into all the mental objects that are underneath the tip, which is the negative emotion, which is something that nobody does. So because nobody does it, then a system that is geared around deep introspection in order to progress is ultra slow. Will take forever, right? You can do it, but this is simpler. The driving force is your sincerity. That's it. It's free will on one hand, if you're doing it from a dualistic perspective, or it is the power of intention if you're doing it from your true nature, from the non-dual version. And both are powerful forces, enough to trigger the healing. Because all that we are talking about is healing here. Does it answer your question?
It does indeed. I was wondering how to combine those two ideas.
Yes.
I've been working with changing what I'm thinking.
Changing your
about
thoughts.
things, so the emotion falls away.
Right.
But this way.
So Gina has been working with cognitive psychology, basically changing the thoughts, right? And it's a valid approach. I use it for many, many years. But this is simpler.
Yeah, I like them both.
Yeah, you can use
and
both.
also something that you've said in the past too, I think could be useful there, in that once you surrender the emotion and you allow for the possibility that the thought processes start to come to consciousness.
Right, exactly.
The
Everything, not only the thought process, but everything else will come to consciousness gradually. Whatever consciousness needs to heal that stuff.
And you had given us, in addition, the technique of asking the question, what is it I'm not getting about this? What is it
Right,
that I'm not understanding?
exactly. What is it? That's the ask and make silence, right? You ask and you make silence, but that's a different technique. Also to introspect, right? So there is a question here, and it says, why did you verbalize the surrender 3 times versus just once? Basically, you can do it just once, and that is enough. But I wanted to make sure that everybody really mean it, right? And repetition breeds sincerity and makes it more effective in this regard. Now, next question is, having missed your explanation at the vibration levels, will you expand on that a little or retouch on that? Thank you. Jim in Santa Barbara. Is this Jim driven? Let me try to understand. Having missed your explanation of the vibration levels. Okay, meaning the consciousness calibrations. Will you expand on that a little or retouch on that? Okay, yes. So Jim, the surrendering technique in the dualistic form, I surrender this emotion to God, please take it away forever, that calibrates in the 600s. If you say, I surrender this negative emotion to the divine or to the one, please take it away completely or forever, you will calibrate in the 700s. And if you remove the I from there and you just say, this negative emotion is surrendered to the divine and is removed forever, and then you add thank you, you add first yes and then thank you, we got a calibration of 960, which is very, very high. I'm not good at calibrating, but I'm glad that I have a student that is pretty good at this. Any other question? Hey, Alan, you're there. Good. Amia's roster. Oh, Don. Hi, how are you? Don King. Would you suggest adding a preference after the surrender? Example, surrender the attachment to the ego, then add I prefer peace. Yes, this is something that can help to point towards where you want to go, right? So let's say I surrender this anger towards my father right now to the divine. I surrender this anger. This anger towards my father is surrendered right now and is removed forever and is replaced by unconditional love. Yes, thank you. So you can do that. See, nothing is written in stone, although I call this surrendering technique actually is more like a method. But the idea of a technique gives you a good frame of work to start with. But the personal element here is really fundamental. So whatever you want to say when you are stating your intention that makes your practice stronger, more sincere, just say it, it's fine. It's not so important the words. who came to the previous satsang on the surrendering technique? Several of you were here, right? Sandy, you were here too. Roy? No, you were not.
Roy was
Huh?
here.
First time, right? Roy was here, yes.
Roy, Cindy, Roy,
Oh, sorry.
Roy, Cindy,
Sorry.
Roy.
Sorry.
That was before you went to Chile, right?
Yes, it was before that. Right. You can surrender quite a few interesting things that even if you don't reach a perfect elimination of that in your life, you will see progress. And if you keep repeating it, it can be dramatic, in fact. For example, the fear of death, right? You can surrender the fear of death, and you will be more and more free of it. You can surrender the fear of scarcity or poverty. These are very, very basic fears, right? You can surrender any addiction of the mind-body organism, because every mind-body system is somewhat addicted to something, right? Even if you don't have any major addiction, you may notice that you have subtle addictions, like it could be to sugar or to whatever, to your coffee, or you can surrender that. To your 2 glasses of wine or 3 glasses of wine at night. So you leave it with 1, right? Yeah, you can surrender very interesting things that will help you immensely as they materialize in your life. Let me see a few more. Oh, you can surrender all anger towards yourself. That's a good one. You can surrender all anger towards you, and all anger towards your mother, and all anger towards your father. Very valuable ones.
I have a good one. Surrendering the need to be right.
Yes, Gina is saying surrendering the need to be right. Very good. That's excellent. So these are ideas about what to apply the technique to, right? You can surrender the fear to diseases, right? Many people have fear of disease. You can surrender the fear of pain to pain. Many people say, "Oh, I don't mind to die, but I don't want pain," right?
And judgments.
Fear of judgments, yes,
Judgments, attachments.
right, judgments. The fear of being judged by others, what others will think, right? So these are very valuable elements that you want to surrender, because they are kind of at the foundation of many of our neuroses. You can surrender your anger towards God, right? If you still believe in a separate God, it's a good idea to let go of that. It's a good idea to let go of the belief in a separate God. The really God is not separated from you, it's you also. So in Chile, I went to visit one of my brothers that had a heart attack this year. And after the heart attack, he had 2 events, serious situations that put him at the death door. And then we met at his house and we were having lunch together. And he began to tell me about his experience with our father, that he was very angry with him. And then he explained that when he was in his early 20s, he wanted to, or late teens, he wanted to pursue a career with horses. He loved to ride horses. My father was a farmer. And my father didn't support him and told him, no, you need to go to the university. So he felt that my father had deviated him from his true desire, and 40 something years after, he was still angry. And he had had a heart attack, so anger is not a good thing to have in your system when you had a heart attack, right? And he was quite angry. So he was visiting a psychiatrist and had been dealing with this issue. So I asked him, could you like to let go of this? And he thought for a moment and he said, yes, but how? How I get rid of it? I said, well, let's do it. So we did the surrendering technique together. And in the dualistic form, I surrendered this to, I think I said to the divine or to God. And at the end, we did it like 2-3 times. And at the end, he told me that he was feeling a little dizzy, right? Like not in his mind. For a moment, he was kind of away from the mind. That's what I noticed. And then a moment after, he said to me, in these few minutes, I made more progress than in all the sessions that I have had with the psychiatrist. Then I went to the south at my wife's house there, and she invited clients and friends, and we did a workshop. It was a 3-hour workshop on this, and it was fabulous. There were 24 people the first day. The room was packed. The second day, even again, the next day we did it, it was close to 20 people. Then I presented a workshop in Santiago. Lots of enthusiasm around this, around the technique. And with good reasons. This is really a breakthrough. It's a breakthrough because it's so simple, it's so easy. So I highly recommend that you begin to use it. Whenever you feel a negative emotion, right there, this is not a technique that you wait to practice it at night, doing an introspection of where you were triggered during the day or at what point you were triggered. No, the minute you are triggered, you immediately do the technique and boom, the feeling is gone, and then the healing began already. So you do it as you live life. You don't wait. You don't have to create a special time for this. And that makes it more effective, of course. I learned about the technique because I went to live to the house of a friend, and he had someone there living in the same house. His name is Charles. Some of you know him. And I noticed that Charles, which I had not met him before that, Charles was always in bliss. So I noticed this, and I asked him, what are you doing? Are you in bliss all the time? And then he told me that he had an awakening about 2 years ago, but then he was instructed telepathically to use this technique. And he began to use it, and in 6 months, his bliss became stable. Because the awakening will not put you into stable bliss. It's a milestone, it will point in the right direction, but it will not give you liberation. Liberation is peace of mind under all circumstances, bliss under all circumstances. So it took him 6 months to clean the mind-body organism from all the traumas and programming and all the stuff using the surrendering technique. 6 months is a very short period of time for the embodiment process. But then when I met him, he was already in bliss all the time.
Be a good bumper sticker that said, "Oh Guru, how do I reach bliss?" And the Guru says, "Surrender everything that is not bliss."
Right. So Gina is saying that there is a bumper sticker that says, "Oh Guru, how do I get bliss?" Right? And then the answer is, "Oh, surrender everything that is not bliss." Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes, there is another story that is pretty interesting. It's from the Buddhist tradition. They say a young man that goes to the Buddha and says, "Master, I want happiness," meaning bliss, right? And the Buddha looked at him and said, "That's easy. Just get rid of the I, then you get rid of the wants, and then what is left is happiness." And then when you look at the joke, you see the depth of it. Because getting rid of the I is not actually getting rid of it. What means is to see through it, to see that it's not real, that it's not your true nature. It's not who you are. Yeah? The I was built after you were born, you were already there. The I began with the first thought about you. I am so-and-so. So, awakening is to see through the I. So what the Buddha is saying is, first, wake up. Second, get rid of the likes and dislikes or your wants. The likes or dislikes, or in Buddhism they are called aversions and attachments. They are at the root of our negative emotions. Remember, Gina, I was telling you that there is something below, even below thought. There are attachments and aversions. So it's a whole complex of thoughts and feelings. You get rid of all your attachments and aversions, and you're free. So the story of the Buddha reflects first the awakening and then the embodiment. The embodiment is to get rid of all the likes and dislikes. And you get rid of the likes and dislikes by targeting the negative emotions. It's easier. Because otherwise you have to start doing an introspection and say, "Oh, I feel angry towards my father. All right, why do I feel angry towards my father?" And then you need to uncover what is underneath. "Oh, because my expectation was this and this and that." It gets pretty complicated, right? It's not necessary. Then here, Mamata Edala, she says, can you go into structure of all the bodies, physical and mental, spiritual levels, a person, if you will? For example, you mentioned astral body. Perhaps two basic questions. No, it's not basic. I'm going to answer that question. We can notice that obviously there is a physical body here. That's easy, right? There is a physical body. The astral body can be noticed too, can be perceived. It's the body, it's an energy body, it's made of energy. And you can measure the electricity or the energy in the meridians, and you can measure and you can feel the astral body, you can sense it. It's so subtle that it's difficult to sense it. But if you train yourself into sensing it, there will come a moment that you will be able to sense it, right? So the astral body is what, after the death of the physical, the astral lifts and consciousness is seen through the astral body, this body of light or body of energy. And then the causal body may be too difficult to perceive it, but it's obviously there because everything in the universe is created based on thoughts. Let's say you build a building, right? You're an engineer and you want to create a building. First you think about the building, you plan the building. There's a lot of thoughts about the building that need to be created first, with the specifications and the ideas. When an engineer is preparing a project, they are doing metaphysics. They are visualizing what they are going to do, right? Imagining it, defining it. So all that mental structure needs to be there in place. And then you begin to materialize the building. So same thing, the body has a complex of thoughts that are underneath the astral, and that's called the causal body or the mental body. So the Indian scriptures, what they say is that we have three bodies. One is the causal or mental, that is very, very subtle. Then we have the astral or energetic, and then we have the physical. But looking through all these three, what is making them alive is consciousness, is awareness, is this perceiving that is perceiving this moment right now. It's nothing complicated, it's here. It's kind of obvious. Without this perceiving of this moment, nothing would have any meaning. And it's happening through all these mind-body organisms at the same time. There is perceiving here. That perceiving is consciousness. So, the Indian scriptures will tell you that after you dissolve the physical, or death dissolves the physical, then the astral can also be dissolved by the death of the astral body, and finally the causal can be dissolved, and then you merge into consciousness. But the spiritual path dissolves also the density of these bodies, to a point that you begin to realize the bodies are still there, but you begin to identify yourself with consciousness, right? Not with the bodies, not with the mind, not with the energy, nor with the physical. And this opens quite a big question, right? Because many yogas and many spiritual paths, they are about energy, not about consciousness. Energy, the kundalini, the energy, moving the energy, focusing the energy, putting the energy somewhere, and increasing the energy, decreasing the energy. So the path becomes all about energy, right? And the non-duality I'm not saying it doesn't work, but I'm just saying that non-duality is not about energy, it's about consciousness. It's about this perceiving, this observing. It's not about energy. Energy is an object. It can be seen, it can be manipulated, it can be moved, it can be perceived. Yes.
So, in consciousness or awareness, there is no energy.
What Diane is asking is that if in consciousness there is no energy, and I would say that pure consciousness in repose, there is no energy, right? But there is a potentiality for energy. There is the infinite potentialities are in a part of consciousness, so consciousness can create energy. So the strange thing is that from the whole universe, everything comes from nothing, right? Everything comes from the no thing, and the no thing is consciousness. Consciousness is not energy. We could say that there is consciousness in energy, yes, that's different. So we could say that there is consciousness in the physical organism, in the atoms, there is consciousness. There's consciousness seen through, and the ultimate realization of non-duality actually is that even the atom is consciousness. Everything is consciousness, right? But that's a realization that is it will come to you. But I would not recommend that you focus into gaining that realization first. I would say that the first realization you want to get is that you are consciousness. Formless consciousness, pure consciousness. That is the awakening. You focus into that realization. That is a very useful realization. Then you can focus into, okay, I'm formless consciousness. What about this? The realization I am everything, right? Or you could say only the all that is here, right? There is nothing else. The all that is, or only the divine is here. There is nothing else. The table, the computer, these bodies, the room, everything here is that. So even the atom is that. That realization comes later. So the first realization is, and that's the awakening, is I am consciousness. Focusing to that first, yes.
I was at the headquarters on top of the hill, Yogananda's headquarters,
Yes,
meditating a couple of months ago,
yes,
and I became aware of everything. First I became aware that my body, this body, was within consciousness.
good.
Consciousness was not within the body
Was within consciousness, yes,
consciousness.
right.
And then it just kept expanding, and I realized everything was within consciousness, was consciousness.
Right. Everything is consciousness.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Everything is consciousness. So Diane is explaining that she was meditating in some beautiful gardens that are here. And she first realized that her body was inside consciousness, and then she realized that everything was consciousness. So this is everything is consciousness, everything, including you, everything, including the mind body organism, not you, because you are consciousness. Everything is consciousness, is the last realization in non-duality. Adyashanti has a beautiful way to put it that, let me see, I think I have it here. Yes. It says, in our entire search for spirit, we are doing it in a world where there is nothing but spirit. That's ultimately the fundamental realization. It's the ultimate realization. So let me repeat it. In our entire search for spirit, we are doing it in a world where there is nothing but spirit. That's ultimately the fundamental realization, adyashanti. So that's very well put. But I would recommend that you don't try to realize that first, because it's going to be difficult. Realize first that you are not so and so, that you are pure awareness. That's easy to realize. In fact, I have done this for quite a long time with a system called the Awakening Protocol, and it's quite effective at doing it. And it's in just 3 hours, you're there. So it can accelerate the process immensely, because otherwise you go through a long time before awakening happens. And so yeah, if you are interested in the Awakening Protocol, you can find information in our website, brainoptimization.com. Yes.
This is related to Diane's realization. I heard a quantum physicist speak recently, and he was describing scientifically and mathematically the universe, and he was saying that the essential stuff of the universe is what physicists call the vacuum, although other people, mainly philosophers, have called it the ether, which is actually, seems like nothing.
Right.
And this is the void, or the luminous void, that the Buddhists talk about.
That's correct.
And things only come into existence when this energy, different domains, the smallest units of energy become entangled, as the quantum physicists say. They become connected in terms of charge and spin.
Yes.
And he said that it's this connection not only brings about universe as we know, he says it's this connection that is consciousness.
Right.
So the consciousness is not the energy, it's rather the interconnectedness of the energy.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes, in the vacuum. The vacuum is right, but it's not nothingness
Right.
in the classical Western scientific sense.
Right. See, okay. Cindy Roy is saying that quantum mechanics, it looks like it's some new studies or new theories.
It's this unconventional physicist.
Oh,
I
it's
can give you
yes. It's an unconventional physicist that is saying this.
And maybe I can say that the problem that stumped Albert Einstein for most of his life, it's been the holy grail of physics for a century that he solved.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yes.
And it's, well.
Yes. So Cindy Roy is saying that this scientist, which is kind of unconventional, he says that he's an expert in quantum physics, says that there is this vacuum or emptiness, you could call it, and in this vacuum what shows up first is particles that are entangled, and then according to this scientist, this entangled or connection between the atoms is where consciousness arises, right?
Yes, basically.
Yes. So I would say that the issue goes back to Buddhism. For example, in Buddhism, they talk about the nothingness, right? So the nothingness is when you use the word nothingness, which is actually a pointer. It's not a good pointer. It's not optimal in the sense that it's pointing to something that is a no thing, but what it's not telling you is that that no thing is life itself, is alive, right? Is because awareness is life itself. Without awareness, there is no life. And with awareness, there is life. So consciousness is life itself. So the problem is that words betray, the truth. One way to say it is that this nothingness is alive, right? Is aware. And the position of this particular scientist that there could be a nothingness that is, or this empty field, this vacuum that could be prior to consciousness, to me is doesn't seem to hold, because then that thing would be dead, would have no consciousness, unless it's alive, right? And if it's alive, then it's consciousness. So non-duality actually says that consciousness is the ultimate. And let me show you this, because strangely I was just looking into this today in some calibrations that were done by David Hawkins, and he expressively checked this point through kinesiology. And look at it. It's a statement. The statement is consciousness is irreducible. Sorry, consciousness is the irreducible stratum of all that exists, right? And he calibrated that statement at 1000. So it's the maximum truth. So consciousness is actually the irreducible stratum of all that exists. So that vacuum that this gentleman is talking about is consciousness, actually. And the atoms that become entangled in that vacuum, they are arising in consciousness, which is different. They are arising in the field of consciousness. And he has I would say, as far as I see, he has a problem in his theory. But who knows?
So you don't think there's anything beyond consciousness?
Sorry?
You don't think there's anything that isn't consciousness?
No, I don't. Everything is consciousness. See, we look at Hawkins, and he's saying here is the irreducible stratum of all that exists. We look at Adyashanti, and he's saying in our entire search for spirit, we are doing it in a world where there is nothing but spirit. Spirit means consciousness again, right? So, no, I think that consciousness is the ultimate.
So you don't think there's a state of just...
At least for what has been realized here, Diane. Maybe I am lacking some level of realization, or there is a lacking of some level of realization here that there could be something beyond consciousness. I don't know. For example, you find in the book of I Am That, Nisargadatta talks about the absolute, but strangely, the absolute, no other non-dual teacher talks about the absolute, and I think there's a problem there with the translation. because Nisargadatta Maharaj was talking in Gujarati, so he was not talking in English. So the translations can betray the spirit of the teachings very easily.
If there was anything beyond consciousness, he wouldn't be conscious of it.
Right. So Diane is saying if there was anything that was beyond consciousness, we could not be conscious of it. Yes.
Since they were probably limited
So-
by our wiring to perceive or understand or conceive of, just like you can teach a monkey computer inputting, but it's not going to understand. You know, it's not. It's in. There's certain things that certain intelligences are simply incapable of ever achieving, and we may be limited. You know, in our, like we're limited in our spectrum of colors, for instance, where like there's certain animals that have other bands of ability to see colors that we don't.
Yes.
And can't. So it might
Right.
be something like that, like we're just not wired for everything.
What I do think is real is this: is that consciousness can be withdrawn. So, because consciousness is moving, is flowing in different directions. It's Nisargadatta says it happens in contact, meaning it's moving towards something, right? It's like attention. Attention is another word for consciousness. So it's flowing towards different things, and then it can be withdrawn through meditation. In deep meditation, then awareness severs, or the relaxation in the physical mind-body organism severs the contact with the world. In deep meditation, the attention becomes totally interiorized. So, because let's say the optical nerves and all the nerves, they carry electricity, and in order to transfer information within, they need to be electrified. If through relaxation you remove that electricity, and then what happens is that consciousness becomes completely interiorized, because you don't have external sensations. The sensations are gone, and the thoughts can become so immensely quiet in that state that the sensations are gone, the thoughts are gone. You could say that the whole mind is gone. And at that moment, we talk about beingness, right? Beingness would be that state where there is awareness aware of itself. That's beingness. Still is awareness, but it's aware of itself only because the dance of the mental objects stopped through relaxation. Through deep relaxation, the dance is gone. And then there's no dance, there's just awareness aware of itself. And that is called beingness. But it still is awareness. Still is consciousness. Consciousness aware of itself. So if Nisargadatta Maharaj called that the absolute, maybe, I don't know. Still, we will see. The ultimate mysteries of the universe. I don't claim to have all the answers.
I'd like to ask this anyway, and I'm completely serious. Which came first, the darkness or the light?
Okay.
The chicken or the egg?
So, is saying, Cindy Roy is saying, what came first, the darkness or the light? Consciousness was prior to all polarities, right? So, would you say that in consciousness there is darkness? No, because in consciousness is beyond all things. So, to attribute a particular quality to consciousness would be a contradiction. And then from consciousness, the light came in, it created light, and the absence of light is what we call obscurity, right? Or darkness. So darkness actually doesn't exist, right? It's just the absence of light. So it has not been created.
I was thinking of it in terms, and of course we're running up against the limitations of language.
Yes.
So that if we define consciousness, redefine it, or define it in a different way as not the ultimate stratum of all that exists, but as the light, then there could be something that predates consciousness, which should be the darkness. If consciousness is a thing, then the no thing would come before it.
Right.
But then the way you define consciousness,
Right.
that wouldn't be true.
Well, not
But
because.
many people do.
Right. Yes, get it. So Cindy Roy is saying, well, if we define consciousness as something or as the light, then there would be something that is no consciousness, right? But the problem there is that consciousness is not a thing. And this can be perceived or experienced very clearly in your own experience right now, that consciousness is not something. Because you can notice that there is perceiving or perception of this room. And that perceiving of this room is evident, is self-evident that it's not a thing. The visual inputs have been received, and the auditory inputs have been received, and there is perceiving of them. But when you notice that there is perceiving, then you see that that's not a thing. That's not something that is being seen. It's not a thing. And it's a verb, right?
Consciousing.
It's consciousness.
So verb, not a noun.
Sorry?
Is it it's a verb, not a noun, really?
It's a verb, right.
That earlier.
It's not a noun. There's perceiving of this room. That's undeniable. There's perceiving here. That's undeniable. That's a verb. If you try to find the perceiver, you never find it. So when you cannot find the perceiver, you wake up, because the perceiver is supposed to be you, right? I am perceiving. The language is saying to you, I am perceiving. But therefore you are supposed to be the perceiver. But in your own human experience, you try to find the perceiver and you never find it. You can't, because it's not there. And when you give up, you wake up. When you give up looking for it, so, oh, it's not here. And you repeat the experiment with 1 billion people, and none of them will find the perceiver. It's not there. The perceiving is very easy to see, that there is perceiving of this room is so obvious and elemental. But try to find the perceiver. You find only things that are perceived. That's all you find. So you can reduce the experience to something as simple as mental objects dancing, and there's perceiving of them. That's all there is. And no me, no I. The me or the I is a complex of thoughts and feelings. It's a mass of thoughts and feelings that is also dancing in front of awareness. But it's not a real consciousness. consciousness is impersonal.
Can somebody be?
Sorry?
We can be conscious of our own consciousness.
Consciousness can become conscious of itself.
Yes.
Yes. Conscious can notice itself. Consciousness can notice itself, or the perceiving can notice that there is perceiving. Yes. Can notice itself. Okay, well, we have been here for an hour and 15 minutes. I guess that's long enough, and it was very nice to have you all here. Same those online. Thank you for coming and participating. And for those who are interested in awakening, please go to brainoptimization.com. There is a tab there that reads awakening. You click in that and we'll go to the awakening protocol. Read that, and if you are interested, give me a call. I highly recommend that you start by waking up, because it makes life much, much easier. To live the life from this lie that I am a me or an I is painful. And it makes the path to ultimate liberation also much easier.
It's painful because you're creating more identity that doesn't exist
Right.
in the first place.
Yeah, you're creating it's identity. Identity is thought. So also for those interested beyond that, I would suggest that you look into the course in Psychology of Consciousness, especially if you have awakened already. That course is all about embodiment. And the other day I was with a friend that she told me that she woke up about 30 years ago, but at that time she didn't have a teacher. So she went through hell after awakening, right? Which can happen because it puts your whole world upside down, and life put pressure on you to clean the mess that is in here. So this course in Psychology of Consciousness begins with awakening the first 2-3 sessions, 2-3 classes, and then there are 18 more classes that are all about embodiment. Why? Because there's a clear need there that is to embody the awakening, and very few teachers that are focused into this, because they are focusing more into helping people to awaken, with good reasons, because there are 7 billion people out there that are not awakened. So the urge to help humanity to wake up to what they are really is immense. But for whatever reason here, in this mind-body organism, the drive was the drive to create this course. And as the embodiment here was happening, I was creating the course, and now it has been used by a lot of people that, and many of them finished the course and they realize, hey, this has been so useful, I want to take it again. And they restart from the beginning, right? Because the course is a combination of videos and coaching sessions with me one-on-one on Skype. And the videos are classes of 4 segments of 45 minutes each, and they cover practically the whole spectrum of embodiment, the whole subject. Yes, please. You have a question?
No.
No? Okay, it's gone?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for coming, and bye to everyone online.
Very, very helpful tonight.
Yeah,
Thank
got a
you.
lot out of the session.
Yeah.